Good day, EDC and knife community, and welcome to the channel. So I'll present to you the CRKT EB, all right, and I'll share with you its use based on its steel. So for the first part of the video, I'll share with you my thoughts on its intended use based on the steel that it carries. Steel attributes are based from Blade HQ on their steel guide at bladehq.com. Look up steel guide. Reports also from both Knife User Basics, and Knife Steel Nerds, all in their .coms. Just look them up. Second, I'll discuss the CRKT EB based on its design, based on the intended purpose. So I will mention particular design cues about the blade, the handle, and the general design of the knife, which reflects the purpose of its use. And for the third part, of course, as this is reference material, I'll fit it based on my hand. So for those of you looking up info on the CRKT EB, I feel it important to do a hand fit based on the dimensions of my hand, and of course in relation to your hand. And after those three, I'll try to fit where this knife will best shine, in my opinion. I'll see if I can fit them under any or all of my four categories, which are 1, EDC or everyday carry, 2, hard use and outdoor, 3, food prep and kitchen, and if necessary, there is a fourth category that I have, which I call tactical. If I feel that the knife primarily shows a more aggressive personality, if you will. However, as with all knives that I will be presenting moving forward, it is my intention to present this knife and all knives in general as safe tools. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about blade steel now. So the CRKT EB, or the EB, is built up around D2 steel. If you look up D2 steel on Google, you'll see that D2's attributes is basically or primarily described as high carbon and high chromium steel. So therefore, as early as now, you would expect this to have at least hardness and stainless attributes. So here is D2 if I read it on the four main attribute pillars of edge retention, sharpenability, corrosion resistance, and toughness. If we move now to edge retention, it has comparatively decent to great edge retention, meaning the D2 will hold its edge reasonably well in view of its relatively high hardness rating, anything around 50, 53 or 54 on the HRC rating will tell you that that steel is hard. So with the HRC rating of 55 to 61 being relatively high, you would expect this steel or the steel on the EB to be very hard, and therefore it will have relatively good to great edge retention. That means therefore it's not gonna dull easy, and yeah, it's gonna be great for everyday carry or everyday use, without having to worry about losing its edge or getting dull easy. And moving forward, let's talk about sharpenability. The blade is relatively good to sharpen. It's relatively easy to sharpen with a simple sharpening stone or a whetting stone. You don't have to have the higher end precision knife sharpening tools like the Ruixin or the Lansky or the workshop tools, but a simple sharpening stone will definitely do the job of sharpening the D2 steel on the EB. And moving on the third, attributes, which is corrosion resistance. So remember when I said that D2 has high carbon, high chromium, high carbon giving hardness and edge retention attributes to a blade. The chromium or the high chromium component gives this a good corrosion resistance grade based on other steels. But it is semi-stainless, being that it's not really up there in terms of other stainless steels. Although it has a high chromium content, the chromium, the threshold for a really good stainless steel is at least 15% chromium. This one, D2, has 12% chromium. Therefore, it is a semi-stainless steel. So using this with wet or acidic or corrosive or not really reactive, okay, that's the word, reactive substances will develop a patina on the blade, if or worse, rust. So careful use and care is needed with the EB in regards to its steel. So a good rinse and wipe is always best. And the fourth, let's talk about toughness. I'll show you up here on the screen the relative hardness and toughness with regards to knife speak. These two are not interchangeable. So therefore, when I say that the steel has good hardness, it also has to be rated with its toughness, meaning if it could take a beating. So hardness, already we could say that this is a relatively hard knife based on the high HRC rating. Therefore, it will hold the edge. But in terms of toughness, the question now therefore is if it will break or chip during use. And this one has the D2 steel on the CRKT has good to great toughness. Therefore, it will not easily chip or break when put to hard use. So that was the blade steel or the D2 steel. Let's not talk about the knife in general. So let's start with the blade first again, but talk about the design on the blade. So the blade is a reverse tanto or a sheep's foot at 2.1 inches. It has a long swooping belly, and the blade remains thick up to the tip, relatively strong. Therefore, for its tip volume, and I would say it would, adding to the hollow grind, it would make a nice or a great slicer and cutter. And the tip would be very versatile for other tasks, I would say. Moving forward to the handle. The handle is a nice G10. It's grainy to the feel and to the touch. Feels like it's wood. It really looks elegant. Therefore, I would say it really looks a nice EDC tool, or I would say it will really look nice as a gentleman's carry. I'm gonna go a bit into a Star Wars groove over here. It kind of reminds me of Count Dooku's lightsaber to a certain extent. Or not talking about Star Wars, I could also say that it could even look like Aquaman's battle seahorse in a badass sort of kind of way. But moving ahead, folded out, the blade continues to flow like an S. The flow, the shape of the blade continues to the shape of the handle, makes for a nice swooping S, which ends in a really nice copper ring here. So before I get to the copper ring, I'm gonna finish off the handle first. So the handle is really nice and grippy. It's a little more than a centimeter, probably 1.2 centimeters thick. So it really has a nice grip. And the way that you deploy the blade is through a flipper, a tab, which we call a flipper tab. So it makes for a really nice snappy report. And deploying the blade back is, or the lock is a liner lock, which also makes it for a nice report. Deploying it back in, like so. If you heard that, so that's a nice snappy report deployed. Then putting it back in. That's it. It's really snappy, both deploying and putting it back in. And now, yeah, let's move now to the nice finger ring. The finger ring, first of all, color-wise, the dark gray really blends well with the black of the blade, and therefore the finger ring makes for a nice yellowy accent to it, and it really adds to the gentleman carry-ness of the blade. really adds to the elegantness. But moving to the function or the design of the feature, the fingering really makes for a nice, um, gives it a really nice karambit vibe, if you will. So you could do your tricks now if you like, if you're into karambits, you could do your tricks here. And let's just deploy it like so. See the nice snap. In this reverse grip, it really makes for a nice natural grip, no hot spots and such. It's really good, you know. And therefore, from a nice EDC, it just becomes a really nice, or no, not decent, but legitimate, um, I would say, defensive tool. So yeah, um, let's move now forward to hand fit. Right, best way for me, I think now, is to compare it with other knives. Let's say the Benchmade bailout. Right, so they're about the same size, open and close wise. Let's both put them in their close position. Yeah, so they're about the same length, closed wise, but in terms of the girth or the width, the EB has a better girth, or has a better um, meatier feel. So you'll have more grip on the blade compared to the bailout. The bailout is just, you know, really just, I don't know, in my opinion, crap, because it's really just too thin for me. But the EB has a substantial girth to it. Width is about more than 1 centimeter, so it's 1.2 or under half an inch. It really makes for a nice girth. You already know, or I've already showed you how wide my hands are. My hands are like they're 9 centimeters wide or 3.5 inches wide. So for those of you with the same hand as mine, size hands, you'll have like about an inch more of space to either back your hand away from for better reach, or just to choke up on the blade for. But if you have bigger hands than mine, you'll just the EB will just really be snug in your hand, especially with the fingering on, and it's really going to be snug and fit in your hand. It's really just going to feel comfortable. So yeah, the last part, category, how based on the design, where will the EB fit? I would say the EB is a great EDC tool, but it will. I would also dare say that it's gonna look awesome as a gentleman's knife. One thing here I have is the Black Fox Metropolis, which is also just as elegant. But moving back to the EB, it really makes for a really nice gentleman's knife. So yeah, EDC wise, for a gentleman carry, they're great. The EB is great. Would I recommend this for hard use or outdoor? Hard use, no, but I would say that the blade shape, being it the reverse tanto and it having still a substantial width or thickness to it towards the tip, it makes, besides it being a cutter or a slicer, you could also use this to pry with, or maybe, you know, turn some screws around. So yeah, it could use this. The blade profile is very versatile, so you could use this as an emergency work knife, but not really as a work tool or as a heavy use knife. Outdoor, yes, maybe you could bring this out to the campsite to maybe peel your apples or carrots or whatever. But in terms of chopping, so not it doesn't have it doesn't have enough mass to become a chopping tool. Yeah, and because of its length, I wouldn't be cutting or slicing much thicker than probably a carrot, or, you know, slicing or peeling an apple. Uh, but in terms of the steel, since this is D2 steel, I would really advise that you care for this. As soon as this comes in contact with, reactive substances like juice, acid, vinegar, meat juices and stuff, it's best that you rinse and wipe right away for it to not develop rust, or it could at the very least develop a patina. But I would suggest that you for care of the D2, immediate washing or rinsing and wiping is advisable. And lastly, so yeah, this is gonna be food safe or food prep safe or food prep viable. It's good. So we have two categories which are good. Wouldn't really advise this as an outdoor or heavy use knife. And I would probably also categorize it in a number four category of tactical. I say that gingerly because this really is a useful tool. But if push comes to shove, this can be made into a tactical knife simply because if it's fingering, could easily use it as a karambit. For all those karambit lovers, the EB is also a nice blade for you to look into if you're, like I said, if you're into karambits. So yeah, the you could play tricks on this, like I said, like so. And yeah, this makes for a real decent or legitimate, I would say, a legitimate self-defense tool. So that's it. I hope you liked the video. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I really encourage you to leave your comments. I appreciate all your comments. I try to answer them as much as I can. I appreciate the encouragement. I also appreciate the criticisms. Please keep them coming. It makes for a good reference to how I could improve the video. So yeah, with that said, and the with that said, going to the with that said, sure, I'd like to say peace out and stay safe. This is the EB by CRKT, by the way.